Greetings metalheads and welcome to No Nonsense Metal Reviews. I'm George and today I am very excited to be reviewing for you the excellent new album, second album from Static Abyss. This album is entitled Aborted From Reality. Now, that artwork is awesome and insane. It's creepy, sinister, looks like something of a nightmare, a little bit kind of Stranger Things going on there, very horror movie-ish, weird stuff going on there, crazy. But this album is freaking excellent. If you're not familiar with Static Abyss, they're a little bit of a side project, if you like, that originated, I believe it was in 2022 or just prior to that, but their debut album was 2022, so last year. So 2 albums in 2 years. They wowed me with this album. This is Labyrinth of Veins, which is an excellent album. This featured in my top 15 albums of 2022. Absolutely brilliant album. And they've returned just a year later with this delight. This is Aborted From Reality. A very interesting band. And I say they're a side project because they are 100% members of Autopsy. So 100% of Static Abyss's lineup, which consists of 2 individuals, are members of Autopsy, one of the legendary old school death metal bands, one of the pioneers of that death metal sound and style. I am of course talking about Chris Reifert, who is the vocalist and the drummer of both bands, and also we have Greg Wilkinson as well, who contributes guitars, bass and music. He also mixed and mastered this album. This is awesome. It's just 2 guys creating death metal. Now, as 100% of the lineup of Static Abyss is members of, or are members of Autopsy, of course, there is a certain similarity, okay, we can say. It's unsurprising that Static Abyss do have a significant resonance of Autopsy, which, to be honest, is no bad thing. It's very difficult to escape the fact that with the same vocalist and also the same guitarist and drummer, there's going to be similarities, there's going to be crossover. But, as I say, that's no bad thing. I love Autopsy. Autopsy are an incredible brand. Absolutely love Autopsy. One of my favourite death metal bands for sure. Hey, it does sound different. They've got a different approach. I would say that overall Static Abyss sound far more sinister, and they've got a kind of like an atmospheric darkness and a sinister sort of nature to them, more so than Autopsy. Autopsy, I think they're generally a little bit kind of faster paced, although of course Autopsy do have a lot of doom vibes in there. This band, Static Abyss, is, I can't really define them definitely as being like a death doom band, but they've got a little bit more of the death doom element throughout their music than Autopsy does. But as I say, there's a lot of similarities, there's a lot of crossover there, but no bad thing, in my opinion. So Aborted From Reality, not an overly long album. I think it's about 35 minutes, somewhere in that region. But start to finish, absolutely brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. I love this album. I've been listening to it a heck of a lot over the last few weeks. We kick off with the title track, Aborted From Reality, which lurches off at a much more Autopsy pace, a much faster pace, before slowing right down into some dirgy death doom excellence. Really good, really sinister. There's a whole lot of kind of dark atmosphere to this album for sure, and certainly to that track. Absolutely killer way to begin the album. Then we're into Worm Skinned, which is a disgustingly titled track, but an absolutely brilliant track at that. We've got such a nasty chugging riff, absolutely fantastic, one of the best riffs of the album. Dark, chugging brilliance, absolutely awesome. Chris's vocals throughout sound fantastic. That guy is such a good, proficient death metal vocalist. absolutely just nails it. One of my favourite death metal vocalists because he's got that kind of maniac shriek and he can really give it some power as well. Brilliant track there in Worm Skinned. Again, it's a little bit more faster paced in places, and then we've got some doomier sections. Third track though, Cathedral of Vomit, which is absolutely putrid. It's so dark. That is just outright death doom. Start to finish, it's so dirgy, it's so dark, but it's freaking awesome. Cerebral Ghost picks the pace up a little bit. There's a little bit of a faster pace there. We've almost got like a bit of a death and roll vibe at times, but it's faster paced. It's more akin to an Autopsy kind of pace. Mind's Tentacles, fantastic riffs on there. Absolutely love it. And I love the prominence of the bass throughout this album as well. Poisoned Limbs is a little bit of a shorter track. We've got two sort of very short tracks on this album that are about a minute long each, which include Poisoned Limbs, which is a little bit of a grinding nature to it, and Dehumanized, much later on in the album. Horizon of Cremains, which is a brilliant track. Again, it's a good meld of faster and slower paces, kind of death doom, cracking riffs there though. Crosses and Coffins, a death metal punch, as is Unrepentant Mutant Serpent. Bit of a tongue twister, that one, but that is a very nasty death metal track. Crusty. There's a bit of a crusty nature to this album as well as that kind of atmospheric edge. Freaking great. Absolutely brilliant. And as I've mentioned, Dehumanized. But we close the album with The Static Abyss, essentially the band's title track. Fantastic. Really dark, deep death doom. Bit of a tongue twister that, but really, really good. Absolutely stunning stuff. Really enjoyable. Really memorable as well. Start to finish, this is a really memorable album. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. If you love Autopsy, if you love... I'm trying to think of another sort of good comparison. Maybe Asphyx, just because of the death doom nature. But if you love those bands like Autopsy, Asphyx, then you're absolutely going to love The Static Abyss. And if you enjoyed that album from last year, the debut, Labyrinth of Veins, then you're definitely going to enjoy this. And I really do hope that that Chris and Greg do keep up with writing and recording Static Abyss material, because there is a difference. There is a lot of similarities, of course there is, as I've gone over in depth there, between Static Abyss and Autopsy. Undeniable. There is going to be a crossover. There's going to be a lot of similarities. But this sounds great. There is a lot of difference as well. Certainly in terms of the atmospherics. Certainly in terms of the kind of heavy doom element in there as well. But it's absolutely brilliant. Tracks to check out then. Worm Skinned, definitely. Cathedral of Vomit. Great song title there. And probably Unrepentant Mutant Serpent for me. They're the real standouts, but start to finish, not a bad track, not a bad moment on this album. Check it out if you love good old death metal with a big doom leaning. There we have it, Static Abyss, Aborted From Reality. Check it out, it's an album that you freaking need to hear. So, what are your thoughts and opinions on this fantastic album, on this excellent band? Very interested to hear. If you've never heard of them, you've never heard of Static Abyss, seriously, check them out. Check out this album. It's worth your time. Thank you very much for watching, my friends. Please do feel free to like and subscribe. It's always very, very much appreciated. Take care, my friends. And as always, stay heavy.